Hello and welcome to MindShifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or in the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered in my 46 years of doing therapy. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages that says Start Here, it'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? That chapter of that book is a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. And that tool is a tool that I've been using for over 16 years to improve the quality of my life and turn my negative emotional states into an infallible guidance system and thereby improve my state of mind and improve my choices, the consequences for choices that are made from a state of calm and clarity and balance are highly preferable in my mind to those consequences I receive when I make a decision based on hostility or fear-based input in my mind. So we are encouraging people to read that chapter of that book, and then you can just click on the link to download the PDF file of the actual worksheet process. Print it off and use it as often as you'd like. You can also go to your app store and type in the 3 words HeartLand Aramaic Forgiveness and get access to a completely free and private app. And that app contains that tool, an abbreviated version of that tool, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. You can also click on a link and download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process, and those audio files can serve as a tutorial. So even if you're not able to make it here for the live internet show and call in to get individual support or feedback, you can use those audio files as a tutorial, step by step, for how to go through this process and turn any negative emotional state you have into an infallible guidance system to improve your life quality and relationships. We have made the commitment to go through the Course in Miracles lessons this year. We're on the 41st day of the year, and I will get to that lesson in a moment. After I read that lesson and the material from Pam Grout's book, we'll have time for a short time for some questions. The second half of the show today is going to be a replay of conversation about special relationships and whatever it is, maybe regulatory speech for the last half hour of the show. So today's lesson, lesson 41, is God goes with me wherever I go. Regulatory speech for some people would, not regulatory speech, the emotional loadings for a word like God, the baggage, the history, the trauma might make it better for some people to use a word like the dude, all that is, the Creator, creation itself, Holy Spirit, whatever you want, any substitute will work. The Creator goes with me wherever I go. The commentary reads as follows. Today's idea will eventually completely overcome, the sense of loneliness and abandonment that every human being who believes they are separated will experience. Depression is an inevitable consequence of the dream of separation. So are anxiety, worry, a deep sense of hopelessness, helplessness, misery, suffering, and intense fear of loss. These are things that are inescapable once one enters the dream, the illusion. Einstein calls it the delusion of separation. Believing you are separate or separated from anyone or anything is an optical delusion. It's a belief system delusion, and it immediately produces the consequences of loneliness, abandonment, anxiety, worry, a deep sense of helplessness, misery, suffering, and intense fear of loss. Those who are living in the dream of separation have invented many cures for what they believe to be, quote, the ills of the world, close quote. But the one thing they do not do is question the reality of the problem. Yet its effects cannot be cured because the problem is not real. In actuality, what they're saying is you cannot ever be separated from your Creator and from all of creation. The idea for today has the power to end all this foolishness forever. And foolishness it is, despite the serious and tragic forms it may take. Deep within you is everything that is perfect, ready to radiate through you and out into the world. It will cure all sorrow and pain and fear and loss because it will heal the mind that thought those things were real. The mind that suffered out of allegiance to those things. You can never be deprived of your perfect holiness simply because its source goes with you wherever you go. You can never suffer in actuality because the source of all joy goes with you wherever you go. You can never be alone because the source of all life goes with you wherever you go. Nothing in actuality can destroy your peace of mind at its deepest levels because the Creator goes with you wherever you go. Now, the human mind, as we've talked about in so many other occasions, is capable of creating the illusion of separation and all of the suffering that goes with that. But the actuality never changes. And that's what all of these lessons in Course in Miracles are trying to usher us into, an experience of our true nature, an experience of how the process of perception takes us further and further away from the actuality of the energy of creation expressing through us in the moment. The commentary goes on to say, we understand that you do not believe all of this. How could you? You can't believe it because the truth is hidden deep within, under a heavy cloud of insane thoughts. This cloud is dense and obscuring, yet representing all that you see. Today we will make our first real attempt to get past this dark and heavy cloud and to go through it to the light beyond. There will be only one long practice period today in the morning, as soon as you get up if possible. Sit quietly for some 3 to 5 minutes with your eyes closed. At the beginning of the practice period, repeat today's idea very slowly. The Creator goes with me wherever I go. At the beginning of the practice period, repeat that very slowly. Then make no effort to think of anything. Try instead to get a sense of tuning and turning inward past all of the idle thoughts of the world. Try to enter very deeply into your own mind, keeping it clear of any thoughts that might divert your attention. From time to time, you may repeat the idea if you find it helpful, but most of all, try to sink down and inward, away from the world and all the foolish thoughts of the world. You're trying to reach past all these things. You're trying to leave appearances and approach actuality. It's quite possible to reach God. In fact, it's very easy because it's the most natural thing in the world. You might even say it is the only natural thing in the world. The way will open if you believe that it is possible. This exercise can bring very startling results even the first time it is attempted. And sooner or later, it is always successful. We will go into more detail about this kind of practice as we go along. But it will never fail completely, and instant success is possible. Throughout the day today, use today's idea often, repeating it very slowly, preferably with eyes closed. Think of what you are saying and what the words mean. Concentrate on the holiness, the wholeness that they imply about you, on the unfailing companionship that is yours, on the complete protection that surrounds you. You can indeed afford to laugh at fear thoughts, remembering that God goes with you wherever you go. The Creator goes with you wherever you go. And I'm prompted to say, Guy Finley says in one of his talks, the Creator didn't just put you in a world where somewhere or some way, if you work hard enough, if you scale enough mountains and search for the guru, you can eventually find someone to help you. He says the Creator put you in a world where your instant, constant, infallible supply will always be there for you if you just ask it to. Your infinite, constant connection to your source is woven into your very existence. Pam Grout says in the Course of Miracles experiment book, chapter 41, titled, Get Out! Escaping the Little House of Horrors. She quotes Hafiz, who said, Love has befriended me so completely, it has turned to ash and freed me of every concept and image my mind has ever known. Pam Grout writes, I'm a sucker for a good quote, probably because I'm a writer and adore words and ideas. I rarely write anything, except travel articles, without leading off with a quote. A Course in Miracles, Lesson 41. Pam calls it, the divine buzz goes with me wherever I go, is chock full of worthy words of wisdom for my collection. For example, leave appearances, approach reality. What appears to be, whether it's in the news, in my litany of dislikes, fears, and problems, is a hologram of my beliefs. As long as I continue to, quote, invent cures, close quotes, for my personal house of horrors, they will continue to star in my reality. But the minute I question their validity, they will literally disappear. This is so difficult to believe because, like all human beings, I have invested my entire life in the idea of problems. I think it's my mission to eradicate things I do not like. But what if they're not even real? What if the Course is right? What if none of this ever was the truth of my existence? Today, instead of believing in what the Course calls, quote, the heavy cloud of appearances, close quotes, I will celebrate the fact that the divine buzz, the source of all joy, the God, the Creator, whatever you want to call it, goes with me wherever I go. One practice period is all that's required. And I will know that anything that might look like a problem is just me making up a story, and that story will go poof and disappear the minute I withdraw my belief. The problem, as this lesson stresses, is not real. The Creator, the source of all joy, goes with me wherever I go. So that's our Course in Miracles lesson for today, and as I said, we've got about 14 or 15 minutes left, maybe 12 minutes left before we listen to an audio for the second half of the show. So our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. It'll put a little question mark by your phone number, and I'll announce you by your area code. How can we support you today? We have one person in the chat room, and we have 8 callers plus Jeannie. What is on your mind? How can we support you today? 563-999-3581. We had our support group last night, and in that support group, it was a doozy of an assignment. I had about a half an hour to try and explain Dr. Michael Ryce's work to what ended up being a total of about 27 people on the call. And it's a group of people who work through a meetup group in Downers Grove, Illinois. And they are they're a group of people with a church background that live their lives according to the Bible, so it was quite interesting. Trying to give a quick enough, thorough enough introduction and summary to this work that we might whet their appetite and let them know about the whyagain.org website and the MindShifters Radio show. But we gave it our best shot. And then we had a couple people call the usual Zoom number and spend a half an hour or so online after that group. So it's been a very busy day, and we're available for conversation. I have to leave to try and squeeze in several phone calls before I start seeing patients again at noon my time. And as I mentioned, we've already done one interview this week. We have 2 more scheduled, and we are open for suggestions. Book titles, people to interview, motivational speakers, spiritual teachers, for MindShifters Radio and for the On Your Mind podcast hosted by Journey's Dream. So if you've read a good book lately and you've had it light you up or turn your thinking sideways and you think it might be a good thing to discuss and actively question with a team of support, that's what we're here for. I've had a host of people in the past couple days that are struggling with just what this lesson talks about, all kinds of negative thoughts about themselves. Joan was asking in the chat room, did we record last night's session? I do not believe they were recording. I don't think they record theirs. And I wasn't hosting that call because we had to join their Zoom session. And there really wasn't all that much translation of the work into something that would be palatable for people who have decided that the Bible is their guide for how to live their life. They're going to have to do that translation. So I just tried to present a quick overview of the Reality Management Worksheet, the way that we construct our perceptions and how it can lead us to a higher quality perception or true perception if we use our negative emotions as a trigger to turn inward and apply a tool like the Reality Management Worksheet. So they started with a prayer, they ended with a prayer, they posted some things about how they live according to the Bible, and so that's how I know that that's there. But there wasn't a lot of, quote, Bible-related talk in the Zoom call. So so we just continue to try to spread the word and increase the exposure to the whyagain.org website and the MindShifters Radio show, and that's one of the reasons we keep suggesting that you give us a call at 563-999-3581 and or shoot me an email at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org and let us know who you think we should interview or whose book we should read and share with this audience, or questions you have about your own success in using the Reality Management Worksheet process. I've had, I think, no less than 5 people in the past week who have Jeannie, please comment. Talk away.
I was just going to, how much time do you have, though?
Well, not much. I mean, I think if there's 37 minutes left, I think the recording I was going to play is about 37 minutes. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll open in my half of the show, or Michael's half of the show. I can comment there about. I have had people before ask me about, how does this work compare to the evangelical belief, and so I've got some answers for that one. But let's go with your recording, and then I can answer that later.
All right. So here's something on special relationships and regulatory speech. And we will be back again tomorrow, and have a lovely show. Thanks, Jeannie.
The following is an excerpt from the MindShifters Radio podcast from Tuesday, May 7th, 2019. The topic is special relationships.
And it just so happened that I was reading an Anthony DeMello book last night, and as I was reading his book, it's a synergistic thing. There's no direct line here. I can't tell you exactly what I read in his book, but I got this flood of the memory of the caller saying that to me about their intense gratitude and how they would want to just hug on me so hard that it might be overwhelming. And the thought that came to me was this flooded image about a new insight connected to what I've been told is an Einstein quote, where Einstein was quoted to have said, "Human beings are part of what is called by us the universe. We're part of the whole that we call the universe. And are looking at the universe as though we're just a part of it, us seeing ourselves as separate or separated from anyone else, is a kind of an optical delusion. And that optical delusion leads us to have a special affection for certain people and things closest to us. And that special affection we have for people and things closest to us is really the mechanism that creates a prison for us." Now, somebody might ask, well, how does a special affection for one person or a family member or a loved one create a prison for me? Well, I'm not sure exactly what the mechanism is, but I know that unless there was that special affection for certain people and things over others, I could never go to war. So if taken to the extreme, my negative judgment of others or my less than judgment of others is absolutely necessary for me to be able to do harm to another person or have any rationalization for doing harm to another person. At the same time, if I was able to see the truth of what a lot of scientists and great spiritual traditions tell us, that we're all connected, that we're all part of this one thing that we call this whole, this universe, then it would not be possible for me to harm somebody else because it would be like harming myself. So that if I saw things clearly, I wouldn't be able to hurt another person. And then the quote by Einstein, and I'm told it's from Einstein, goes on to say, the only way out of that prison that I create when I generate special affection for certain people and things closest to me, the only way out of that prison is to extend that affection to everyone and all of God's creation. So what happened to me last night when I was reading this book by Anthony DeMello was I got flooded with the memory of this person saying how grateful they were and how they wanted to express that, and it would be so overwhelming and intense. The thought that came to me was, we all need to learn to look at everyone around us with that same filter. Here is a being of brilliance and light. Here's an extension of the creative energy and form. Here's a part of the one divine mind that I swim, live, move, and have my being in, and I have such affection for this person that I want to just hug on them. And imagine how our lives would change if we were able to see everyone through that filter. Just breathe into that. How would my life change if I was able to see everyone? Not what they did, but every person through that filter. So I'll just take a breath into that, and I'll click on a microphone since someone put their hand up. Area code 847, you're in the air.
Hey, Tim,
Is
it's
this Mary? Hello, Mary. How are you?
Get on this conversation. Oh, no. Not the special relationship thing again. Oh.
You mean the specialness conversation?
Exactly. And I get it. There's scale, it's all in scale and all that kind of thing, and I understand it. I guess I just feel like there's, in the same way that, let's say there's a disaster somewhere and it's so far away, but I want to help, and that whole kind of thing. Like my eyes and ears only go so far, and I can't do everything everywhere in the world. That's why you can only do so much, or in your area or whatever. I feel like that's the same concept in a way with a special relationship. There's no way that I can get as close. I can only get close to so many people, and have a real relationship where that purpose is learning and growing, and you can put the love out there to everyone or offer it out, but I don't think it can ever be quite the same as the people that you're in such direct contact with, that they know you and you know them, and you're building this thing, because you just can't do that with people that you're nowhere near. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I do, and I think I would have to agree with you. And I would say that, take a breath.
I've taken a few today. I'm fine now.
Okay. So all this teaching is calling you to, calling me to, calling us to, is to hold that filter in place for whoever's in front of us, directly in front of us, right now, in any moment. Stole $70,000 from you, even if they just did something that you thought was harmful to one of your dogs or your children or someone you love. It's like what I was about to say before you put your hand up was that in the Way of Mastery, it calls us to asking to be shown how to view my brothers and sisters the way the Creator views them.
Mhm.
And the request there is to just to be able to see with total clarity and accuracy. Well, how could there be a problem accurately and clearly? That's obviously going to be a better result, right?
You would hope so. Yeah.
So we're not called.
Yes,
we're not called in this work to be the same as the one mind that connects us all. We're not called to be the same as that. Called to realize that in direct connection with those around us, the filter, the view, the perspective, the reality, the realization, what Michael Ryce would call the actuality of the truth of that person is available to us. And if we're seeing anything other than that deep truth, connectedness, the beauty of the creative energy expressing in form, if I'm experiencing anything other than that, it's because of roadblocks, garbage, traumatic energies, false conclusions that I'm holding on to. A filter of specialness that I've created and I'm refusing to apply to the person directly in front of me. So for my money, it's a big enough challenge for me to just learn to do this more and more day to day with whoever I run into, whoever I'm interacting with, person to person in the moment. And if I master that, then I'll worry about whether or not I can hold that same level of affection for people on the other side of the planet that I've never met. But I'll take it one step at a time.
I suppose. I don't see how it's like that. Well, I guess I just don't see the prison, how it's such a prison, because if we're all one and you have you're learning from your relationships and they're deep, it's not just to that person. I mean, if we're all connected.
Well, what I think they're talking about when we talk about is it a prison for me? What I think they're talking about is the pain and fear and sadness that I generate and hold on to and blame on other people around me. I mean, just think about the pain and fear and sadness that happens around war.
Right.
Well, I can't have that unless I've got the programming that says we're right and we're the God's chosen ones and our country is better than the other country and we need to attack them so they don't get our cows and yeah. But the ancient definition for war from a movie, the movie was Arrival, and the linguist in the movie said, ask these people what the original definition of war was. And the original definition of war from this ancient culture was, I want more cows. That's what was meant by war. So,
awesome.
So if I'm not able to do harm to another person in order to get property, if I see them as every bit as valuable and worthwhile as me and my children and my father, my mother, my lover, then I can't do the anger business. I can't do the attacking business. And just think about all of the pain and the fear and the sadness, the grief, the horrors that come from getting into a war.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I envision when they say it's a prison for me.
Okay.
that I'm creating all of my negative emotions.
Okay.
And those negative emotions become a prison. So I was just calling us all. I was calling us all to think about. Just imagine how different your life would be if everybody you saw, you felt so loving and affectionate for them that you had to control yourself so you didn't jump on them and hug them. Imagine how much different your life would be. Imagine the energy that you would pour into your interactions with them. And how positive that energy would be, even when they're having a bad day or they're angry about something. Or that's all. This came to me in a flash.
Cool. I will put some thought into that one.
Yeah, try and generate that. One of my favorite lines from the book The Mirror Theory was the student is asking the teacher, what do I do about all my garbage history? And the teacher said, well, to begin with, let's give it a name with more reverence than garbage history. Let's give your past a name that speaks more accurately of what it is or was. What would that be? Well, how about calling it the love of God in search of self? Everything I did in the past that wasn't perfect yet was just me testing things out, trying to find my way home, trying to get more clear about the realization of my true awareness, of my true nature, and the awareness of the true nature of those around me. So I used that. I used that for quite a while after I read that book, and I would walk around and I would see people and they would be crabby, or they would be disheveled in their dress, or they'd be homeless. And I would just say in my mind, there's the love of God in search of self. And just watch how it changed my energy to think that way. And then if I was, well tuned in and relaxed and breathing and asked to be shown, I would ask to be shown, so is it mine today to offer this person some money or ask them if they're hungry or if they need help with something? Or is it to just smile and send loving energy? And from whatever guidance I got when I was asking to be shown what's mine to do in the face of this human being who is simply the love of God in search of self.
Mm-hmm. That would be interesting for even to be treated that way by another person. I could see how that would be kind of a different kind of world. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Michael Ryce.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Michael Ryce in his work calls us to do this, and Susan Darnell was talking about it yesterday, that before they do their breath sessions, they do a thing called a love exchange.
Right.
Which is just going inside myself and thinking the most loving thoughts I can and generate that loving energy and feel it in my heart space, and then imagine that I'm just pouring it out my eyes toward the other person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember the first time doing that. It was very intimidating to me. That one took some practice and some loosening up. We're not used to that, at least most people, I think.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. And yet, what would you say your experience is of it today? Would you say that with whatever willingness you've been able to do that, the times you've been called upon to do it, that it was helpful or hurtful?
Well, I never found it hurtful. There are some people that I think I have a closer bond with because of it. We were both risking to do that, it seemed, and it was all good, and it's full, and yeah, I think it was definitely worthwhile.
Good. So even though it was outside your comfort zone,
Oh, yes.
it yielded good benefits.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So that's the kind of thing we're suggesting
Yeah,
all
the
of us
person in
can
front
do
of you.
more
Right,
often
I understand. Mm-hmm.
to whoever's in front of us.
Yeah, I guess when I hear you say, the special relation, it seems like it's that it's something in me that says, "Ooh, you're not supposed to have close relationships." That it's taking away from something else. It just seems like, I look at it as a and I guess that's something I need to do some worksheets on about how I'm looking at it as a weakness or a criticism of some sort that, oh, that's too special. You shouldn't have that.
Yes, that's right. And please try and hear it, because I've said this before. Take a breath or two. and literally what we're calling you to in this work, we're calling all of us to in this work, is to do more of that special relationship stuff everywhere in your life with every person. Generate that same level of appreciation and affection for everyone you interact with. So the only thing that makes it unhealthy is if I'm restricting it anyone. If I'm doing it with everyone, it's the love of creation, it's the energy of creation that some would call is love, extending itself to everyone and everything. And that's highly recommended.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's the exclusive part of it that makes it unhealthy. It's not the intensity of it. It's not the affection of it. It's not the fun of it. It's not the health of it, the joy of it that makes it unhealthy. It's excluding someone from that energy that you're capable of generating and extending. It's that makes it unhealthy for you. Because every time I do that, every time I exclude somebody from my extending that loving energy, that appreciation energy, that deep compassion to them, I'm excluding some part of myself from feeling that. The only thing that would make me hold back from extending that to somebody is that I'm somehow judging them negatively, and what we know in this work is I'm never going to judge anybody else negatively unless I'm still judging some part of myself negatively for having done the same or similar thing. So the injured, wounded, shameful part of my mind has to be there in order for me to withhold sending that loving energy to someone else. And I'm the one who heals first when I find a way to get in touch with my true nature as that energy of love, feel it fully through every part of my system, and then extend that to the person that moments before I thought wasn't worthy of that affection or that attention or that creative energy.
Cool. Well, we'll see how much deeper this discussion goes into my little brain here, and their process is a little further. All right.
Good. Well, I appreciate the call and the comments and all of your work, and I look forward to our next face-to-face encounter. Take care.
All right. Bye.
The concept of regulatory speech. I believe the concept is very simple, but the meanings of the layers of meaning that we have attached to a word like regulatory, and all of the conditioning we have about trying to get it right and trying to appear a certain way, can put layers of complication on top of this, the concept of regulatory speech. So I'll give you what I understand from this. And it may be slightly different than Michael Ryce's, but for me, this is just so utilitarian. It's so practical. So there's two aspects of regulatory speech for me. One of them is when I learn to listen to what comes out of my mouth, it will reveal to me what I'm hiding from myself in my unconscious. So the first aspect I talk to people about, you could easily call it revelatory speech, because my speech will reveal to me what I'm hiding from myself in my unconscious that I don't want to admit to. An example of that is that even though I teach 100% responsibility for whatever emotions I create, I had 45 years of training, including a doctorate, where people taught me that you made me angry, you hurt my feelings. Sit with your patients and ask them, how did that make you feel when she said that? So I'm still working at uncovering that conditioning. And yet, the work is still in progress. And so I occasionally hear myself think or say, damn that thing, or God, she's making me angry. That speech, or that thought that doesn't even come out as a speech, reveals to me, so you could call it revelatory speech, that there's a part of my mind that still buys into that old hallucination or belief that someone or something outside of me is causing my emotions. And if I use that, and as Guy Finley would say, if I accept the lesson, if I accept the revelation that comes in that moment, then I can work with it. But if I reject it and say, no, it's not me causing my anger, it's that situation that's tragic or hurtful, or that person who's being insulting, and that's causing my anger, I reject the lesson, and then I can't change the emotional state that I'm in, the pain I'm in, etc. So the first aspect of what Michael calls regulatory speech, I think of as revelatory speech. It reveals to me what I'm hiding from myself. Because I think I teach this really well. I talk all about how you're responsible, I'm responsible, I never get angry because of anybody else. When I have anger, it's mine. I think with my conscious mind, I got this knot. And then my unconscious shows me, hey, Baldy, you're blaming that person for your fear. And it shows that, it reveals that to me by a thought that says, gosh darn them, or anything like that. Any thought, right? So whether I'm saying it out loud or thinking it, if I have the thought or say the words, it reveals to me what my unconscious is actually believing. And when that's revealed, I can then use that to go exploring. I can do tapping, breathing, worksheets, journaling. Gee, how could it be that after all this time teaching this stuff, I still get tripped up and want to blame Mary for my joy? Or blame the flat tire for my anger? Or blame the internet dropping in the middle of one of my fabulous speeches for my frustration, right? So if I ask to be shown, I can use the revelation of what my words are speaking to go find and then dismantle the false belief. Any form of a belief that says someone or something outside of me is causing my upset. So that's the first level I think about with regulatory, and I often call it revelatory speech. Other aspects of the regulatory speech is, and if you're not speaking, please go ahead and mute yourself. I used to think I had a bad memory, and so I bought and took and read books on improving memory and the memory courses, and every one I took had the same research that was either replicated or they kept citing. And the research said this: in the moment where I'm trying to tell you the name of the very best memory course I ever took, for example, was if in this moment I say I can't remember, statistically significantly more often, I won't remember. But if in this moment I say, oh, it'll come to me, statistically significantly more often, I remember it. Now here's the issue with that. The information is in my mind. I have a picture in my mind of the book. I can see the guy's face. I can see the woman standing in her dress giving the talk at the head of the class. So I know the information's in there, and yet it won't come top of mind right this moment. And what I tell people about this is the research that says if I say I can't remember, then 3 seconds, 30 minutes, 3 hours later, when it spins around and comes up to awareness, if I've said I can't remember, my mind says, oh, he can't remember, and it never moves into conscious awareness. If I say, oh, it'll come to me, then 3 seconds, 30 minutes, 3 hours later, when it spins through and comes up, my mind says, oh, here's that thing you wanted to remember, and it shows it to me. I interpret this to mean, as silly as this might sound to say, that there's a part of my mind that actually listens to what I say. How weird is that? If I tell myself, I can't remember, I don't remember as much. If I tell myself, it'll come to me, I remember more often. So this was my personal experience, and for decades I talked about this before I heard Dr. Michael Ryce talk about regulatory speech. This is the other aspect of the regulatory/revelatory speech. My speech will reveal to me what I'm hiding in my unconscious, and my speech will help me regulate the programming of that unconscious mind. So without realizing it, every time I say, Mary, you fill me with joy, Mary, you make me so angry, I'm programming my mind to believe someone or something outside of me is causing my upset. And it just keeps getting programmed and programmed and programmed and programmed, and it gets more intense and it gets more. And because it's happening outside my conscious awareness, I can actually build an entire, concrete mall of thought structure and belief that has a tremendous amount of momentum behind it, keeps getting triggered, and once it's triggered and those neural pathways are so well practiced, it just cascades through, and I'm flooded with this emotion that my mind is telling me is being caused by someone or something outside of me. So the other way I can use the regulatory speech is that when I hear myself say something like Aida talked about, that doing the Course in Miracles lessons makes her do this or that, oh, I just heard myself reveal that a part of my mind thinks something outside of me can cause me to do something or feel a certain way or have a spiritual growth, when we keep observing over and over again that I'm 100% responsible for what I create and what I choose, etc. Let me change what I'm going to program into my mind by saying, oh, let me correct that. I'll do a worksheet on this later because I just discovered a part of my mind thinks that the Course in Miracles lessons make me feel this or that, make me a different person. So I'll do the worksheet on that or journal about that hidden part of my mind that just got revealed. But for now, let me say it more accurately so I can start to reprogram my mind. Let me say it this way. It's great for me to realize that I can choose to pick up a tool like the Course in Miracles lessons and create a different experience in my life, and undo old programming and create a new habit of thought that leaves me feeling more joy, aliveness, and connection with the world around me. So does that make sense? This got sparked because a caller on the internet show, Susan, said, that regulatory speech, it should be regulatory everything. We should regulate our thoughts, and we should regulate. And she's absolutely right. The issue is she was saying that because she didn't understand what I just revealed. She was just getting introduced to the concept of regulatory speech, and she was only looking at one aspect of it. But it has at least these two sides of utility for me. One is the revelatory nature of my speech, and the other is the regulatory programming capacity of my speech. The more I speak accurately about how my mind is creating my emotions and affecting the physical energy system, the more I come to observe it directly by dismantling the false beliefs that it's being done to me from the outside. So I'll take a break, take a breath, and ask for comments, questions, answers, soliloquies. Yeah, it's really a powerful tool, and hopefully it makes some sense to talk about it as both a revelatory and a regulatory. It's something that reveals to me what's hidden in my unconscious, and it's a tool I can use to regulate or reprogram my unconscious to a more accurate description of what's happening. And the other part of that is that if I have tools like the MindShifter journaling or the Reality Management wake-up sheet or worksheet and the EFT tapping and the early memories of conflict, etc., I can start to celebrate every time I catch myself say, "You make me angry. The Course in Miracles lessons make me do this or that. That's tragic." I can celebrate the discovery of another part of my mind that's in a false belief, and then it can be worked on and revealed. I can actually use the tools. As I said in the beginning, we want these internet radio shows and the MindShifter support groups to be a training and practice center, the MindShifter support groups to be a training and practice center for some of the most practical tools we've ever discovered to improve the quality of our human lives, emotionally, intellectually,